And welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Staltari, and I am a professional genealogist and a passionate traveler. I want to make sure to let you know that what we're doing today is looking at les filles mariées, the marriageable girls who came before those famous king's daughters. And these women came at a time in Quebec and New France. It was pretty much it wasn't even the Wild West. It was just a brave new world. And a lot of times it was pretty primitive. So these women's bravery at coming into a land that was so different than what they had known is extraordinary. And I wanted to honor their contribution so much. We are now on episode 103, if you can believe it. There are about 262. We've come a long way. We've got a ways to go. Before I begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. Subscribe, like, and notify. Very, very important and absolutely free to you. The like button, what it does is it actually creates kind of a logarithm or something like that, where an algorithm, I should say. And basically what it means is that if you get a lot of likes, then it gets spread. They spread the love. And so that gets my videos seen. So that's a really important part of the whole YouTube experience. So anything you can do on that level is so very, very helpful. Thank you so much to all of you who have supported and blessed me all of these years. So thank you so much. So let's get on with the show, shall we? Today we're going to be looking at episode 103, Gabrielle Barré. Don't you just love that name? It just sounds beautiful. She is a fille mariée, and she is a request from a viewer. Let's get to know Gabrielle just a little bit better. So Gabrielle was born in 1639 in La Rochelle, France. Her parents were Jacques Barré and Judith Dussault. La Rochelle was founded during the 10th century and became an important harbor in the 12th. Until the 15th century, La Rochelle was to be the largest French harbor on the Atlantic coast, dealing mainly in wine, salt, and cheese. The name La Rochelle comes from the Latin meaning rupella, which means little rock. And La Rochelle has truly one of the richest histories of all the towns of France, from its beginnings as an area where the Knights of Templar had their strongest base. Eleanor of Aquitaine married Henry Plantagen in 1152, who would become King of England II in 1154, 2 short years after their marriage, thus putting La Rochelle under Plantagenet rule, which you can imagine. Now we've got the English ruling La Rochelle. And then Louis VIII recaptured it in the 1224 siege of La Rochelle. So it was actually under English rule for about 100 years, maybe a little less. But during the Plantagenet control of the city, Henry II had the Vauclair Castle, which you can still see remnants of it at the Place de Verdun. And of course, from 1568, La Rochelle became a center for the Huguenots, and it was obviously the beginning of the Protestant Revolution and all of that occurred in France. Obviously can be traced to some extent through Henry and Eleanor being there. And the siege of La Rochelle, where so many of the Huguenots were expelled, meant that it changed the history of North America, because so many of those Huguenots, Protestants, French Protestants, would come to New France, and they would also go into America, and places like Rochelle were established. Certainly in New York, there were many centers where the Huguenots would find a home and create a home. The church that she would have been baptized in, Saint Nicolas, had its origin in 1145, and it was destroyed during those Protestant revolutions. It was rebuilt, this church that we're looking at, and it took between 1647 and 1662. So during that time, the church that she would have been baptized in probably was, just a place where they were serving mass or that sort of thing. But she is known, the Saint Nicolas Church that is what I have found. Gabrielle would arrive in New France sometime in 1658. She became the servant for Marie Couillard, who was the wife of François Bissou. In 1658, she did sign a marriage contract with an engagement contract, if you will, with a man named Pierre Lebrec. And for reasons that we do not know, it was annulled. And he would go on to marry Jeanne Chotard, who we profiled in episode 60, I believe that's 68. Now, that being said, and I'll put a link to the episode, and that being said, the reason why I think it's Gabrielle who canceled it is because her future husband, who we'll meet in a minute, ended up having to pay off the expenses that were incurred during this engagement. And so that tells me probably it was her that canceled the engagement. The groom that she selected and who selected her, his name was Guillaume Landry, and he was born in 1623 in La Vente-Rose in France. His parents were Maître Landry and Damienne Desavis. Now you can see that he is from the Normandy region, as so many of our French-Canadian ancestors come from. And inside of the Normandy region, we have the Orne département. There are currently about 125 people that live in La Vente-Rose today. But at one time, obviously, it was a very, very important place. The Château de la Vente-Rose is a 16th century chateau surrounded by a moat, and it was registered as a monument in 1979. Now, the Saint Madeleine Church, where he would have been baptized, is a 15th century church and also is a historical monument. Can you imagine just being in there? I would love to. It looks beautiful. Arrived in New France sometime around 1656, and he would receive a land grant at that time on the island of Orleans. The 14th of October, 1659, Gabrielle married Guillaume, and in Quebec City. Remember, at that time there was no church, a true church, a parish that had not been canonized yet, and so most of the marriages on the island would have taken place in Quebec City or been recorded in Quebec City. And here we return to the island of Orléans. The Île D'Orléans is located about 3 miles east of downtown Quebec City. The island was one of the very first parts of the province to be colonized by the French, and a large percentage of French Canadians can trace their ancestry to at least one early resident, if not more. And truly, truly a pilgrimage needs to be made by anyone who has French Canadian blood, because this is where, I believe, where it started. Yes, Quebec City, yes, Montreal, but this place, amazing. And when you look at the inside map with all of the different parishes, we have Saint-Famille that was established in 1661, followed by Saint-François, Saint-Jean, Saint-Laurent, Saint-Pierre, and Saint-Pétronille. So this is why it's so important to understand where on the island your people come from. So try to check that out. In the 1666 census, we have Guillaume, who is 40 years old, Gabrielle, 27, Marguerite and Claude. Then we have Guillaume in the 1667 census. We have Guillaume and Gabrielle. We have Marguerite, Claude, and a third child, Barthélemy. And they have 2 beasts or 2 cows and 15 arpents, about 13 acres of land. Of having 3 children, very unusual, but for our times, it's certainly not unusual. For their times, definitely. So we have Marguerite, who would end up marrying Esprit Carbonneau and have 10 children, 7 of whom made it to adulthood. Then we have Claude, who married Angélique Verriot and would have 13 children, 12 of whom made it. Those 2 obviously made up for only being the 2 children. And then we have Barthélemy, who unfortunately died at the age of 20. Now, in the 1681 census, we have Guillaume and Gabrielle and their children. Claude is still living at home. Obviously, Margaret's already married. Barthélemy is still living. They have 4 bêtes à cornes, that's 4 goats or 4 horned animals, and 15 arpents. They've still maintained that 12 to 13 acres of land. Gabrielle would die in July of 1688. She was only years old. She and Guillaume would have been married almost 30 years, and she would leave us with 88 descendants as of 1729. But remember, she only had 2 children. That is amazing. Her son, Barthélemy, would follow her just a few short months after in October of 1688. And I can only imagine Guillaume's pain. Guillaume would die 6 months after Gabrielle in January of 1689, and they are both laid to rest at the Saint-Denis Cemetery on the island of Orleans. Of course, on the island of the wonderful monument to the pioneers, the 300 or so pioneers of Île D'Orléans, we have Guillaume Landry and his wife Gabrielle Barré in a final and forever tribute to their fact that they were at Île D'Orléans. You can see it in the note 1656. They were there before Saint Famille was even a church. Guillaume and Gabrielle, please turn to the edition, I guess it's the 11th volume, Our French-Canadian Ancestors. If you can find it in your local library or French-Canadian Resource or Family Center, that's great. If not, try out the Facebook page, Our Free French-Canadian Ancestors. They have the files to be downloaded. I've put the link in for you. Check it out. It really is a wonderful Facebook group. I did find a really interesting site of the Landry family, and I wanted to bring it to your attention. I haven't explored it fully, but from what I can gather, looks amazing. So check that out. I don't think it's a real association, the kind you pay for and things like that, but I think it's a resource. So check that out and let me know. And I've posted the link for y'all to see. I love the story of Gabrielle and Guillaume. They were true pioneers at Île D'Orléans. But more than that, I could feel their love for each other. And the fact they had children was very unusual at the time. And I honestly believe it was almost like a conscious choice. This was just something, I got that feeling that she just wanted to have this many children. I could be wrong, but I just wanted to believe that she put her foot down and said, okay, I'm done. And the fact of the matter is that, when she passed so early and her husband passed 6 months later, you can feel that they were intertwined. They definitely had a story together. It was kind of fate. And I really resonated with that. I also, was shocked by the fact that, 88 descendants as of 1729 out of 2 children. That in of itself is a testimony. And the fact that, the line has carried on because we have a viewer who requested it, and I'm sure there are many more of you that are descendant from this lovely lady. And we want to thank her and bless her memory. And although she wasn't here for a long time, we are very, very grateful that she came to our shores. And also, don't forget that amazing Landry website. If you are a descendant, you need to check that website out because I think that you'll have lots and lots of information there as well. So with that being said, I want to say thank you to my patrons, supporters, and subscribers. Thank you ever so much for always being there for me. I'm so grateful. And until I see you on the next episode of Les Filles Mariées, I will say au revoir.